Okay, hi everyone. Today is July the 15th, and I'm putting a video out on all the various platforms, the usual free platforms that are around, and also onto my locals channel. Today I'm talking about a very short video on the question of, do we create our reality and do we create our experience in its entirety? Like some people, the spiritual and the New Age community want people to believe. And I'm going to share why I completely disagree with that. And this is, of course, like every video and everything I do is just an opportunity for you to contemplate, think, ask questions, dig into your own experience, do some experiments, come to answers yourself. I just think for anybody who is thinking about exiting the cave, who's thinking about returning to totality and source, this is an important question to comprehend. And it's been presented for quite a while. Like I say, specifically in spiritual and New Age communities, that you 100% are creating your reality. And because of that, you need to learn all of their manifestation techniques, their affirmations, their specific meditations, their whatever, so that you can control and manipulate reality to what you want it to be. What, of course, it's done is it's made the people who've put out these programs a lot of money, and the actual control of reality of the people who are using these techniques are to be questioned, right? So let's take this to the level we can put this towards. When you recognize that there's so many different metaphors for talking about reality, be it's a computer simulation, it's a video game, it's a hologram, it's a projection. All of those things are in some way true. And we could argue, it's a dream, it's an illusion, and we could argue all of those aspects and show how from that perspective reality fits that thing we want to present. If we want to present it's a simulation, we can prove that. If we want to present it's a hologram, we can present that. If we want to present it's a dream, we can present that. Which means reality isn't exactly any one of those things. They're all just pieces of useful metaphor for us to examine and try to get a deeper level of where we're at. The hologram, though, is the one I want to bring into discussion here. What's important about a hologram is a hologram is created from an original object. You must have generally you need an object you're creating. We're talking about simple holograms here. You need an object you're creating the hologram from, and then you need a light beam that is going to be refracted. There's going to become two laser light beams. You can't just create a hologram with one laser. You need two laser lights. That's very important. So from those two lights, you will be able to create a hologram of the original object. When we start to see that, in a sense, our soul, which is not our true essence, this is very important. Our soul is already something that has sunk into the quicksand of the matrix, but the soul is the original object. You might say the soul is the originating object of the matrix. That's why it is so important to understand it and get to it. You haven't reached your totality. You've just reached the place where you can now directly reach that what you are. That's what the soul really is. It's like a giant bridge, but it also becomes the original object. That original object, in a sense, projects itself into matter. So we've got one projection going on from ourself, from our soul. There's a second, though, projection. The second laser light is happening from the manifestation itself, from the matrix itself, from the demiurge itself. So these are the two interweaving holographic laser lights that are merging to eventually create the holographic image we call reality. That means, when you take that to the understanding, it means that you are only potentially creating a maximum 50% of your experience and 50% of reality, because 50% of of everything in this realm is coming from the computer itself, from the projection of that itself, of the creation itself. You are projecting the other half of it, which means if someone says you have no responsibility, everything is just happening to you, and you are just a victim of this world, well, that's incorrect, because we know we are projecting 50% of our reality. On the other side of it, someone tries to tell you you are 100% responsible for everything that goes on in your world. Well, obviously, that's not true, because you're only projecting 50% of the reality. An important subject to discuss here, because this will begin to shift how you begin to see, because it means we still at times have to take responsibility for actions and what occurs and what doesn't occur in one sense. And on another hand, we know that we don't have total control in this realm like we think we do. At least in the state 99.9999999% of the human beings walking around think they do, right? So we have this recognition that there's two streams happening to reality. I'm using the Adjustment Bureau movie a lot more. I think I'm going to have to do a more deeper dive into the movie, because I'm mentioning it more and more times. But you've got the Matt Damon character trying to present his view of reality, his view of what he wants, and then you've got the fedora-hatted agents of the Matrix pushing their version of reality, and you're seeing a combination of the two being manifested into the realm. I'm simplifying. Of course, the movie has so many more layers and pieces of depth than that, but that's just a simple overview of what you're seeing here. Another key element to this that I think is important to keep in mind when we're talking about the whole manifestation, we control our whole reality thing, is the idea of space-time, which I also think, because that's what we experience. We are experiencing a holographic matrix reality of which space and time are a part, which move the two-dimensional, because everything is two-dimensional. If you notice, everything is duality. Why is it duality? Because there's two different laser points coming into the manifestation process. So everything has to be dual if it's manifested. You can't only have one side of anything, because that won't create the holographic projection. Are you beginning to see the whole duality thing here? So when you take on top of that space-time, which takes what should be a two-dimensional image, just light and dark, up and down, yes and no, on and off, and creates depth, creates the third dimension of space and a fourth dimension. We don't really live in a three-dimensional world. Actually, we live in a four-dimensional world because it's time. We add time into it. And I'm just going to leave this as an overview thought for you as we leave this discussion. And that is, a great change, I think, will start to occur in your work, in your inner work, in your going within work, and in your seeing of the reality of the matrix. When you stop seeing time as linear, when you don't see time as linear, I know everyone wants to make time, they want to loop time, they want to make it a circle. But instead, when you see time as what's the opposite to horizontal? Horizontal is, of course, flat. That's how we normally see time. But when it's up and down, like an up and down one. What is that? Upright or vertical. An up and down line. When we see time as actually an up and down process, that time is not linear. So it doesn't operate like we're in a car, or we're walking and we're moving across a linear space. That's not time. Time is actually an element of depth. And that's really interesting because, well, if time is depth, then what's the top and what's the bottom? Normally, people would right away automatically indicate The present, whatever the present moment is in somewhere in the middle of this up and down vertical line, and past is at the bottom and future is at the top. But why does it have to be that way? Why can't the past be at the top and the future is at the bottom? That, you see? But as you begin to move from a linear perception of time to an up and where the horizontal phase, and in fact the horizontal part of the graph, which is also extends sort of in three-dimensional space back, right? So you have like a flat table or flat piece of paper, that's space. So when you see time as linear as an up and down line, it makes a very different indication of how to, when normally someone might see space, if this time is linear, it changes the whole way the graph would be seen. So I'm throwing that out there again because it does link. It does link to this discussion of how much do you create, and how much responsible are you? I mean, this is, again, this idea, this is where karma gets thrown around. This is the word that you get hit over the head with when something bad happens to you, particularly. And there's obviously, you had nothing to do, it's literally random. From the standpoint of everything in this dream world, it's a random experience. You know, the person is standing by the bus stop waiting for the bus, a car blows a tire, runs them over and kills them, or seriously injures them, puts them in the hospital, whatever. And it's like, well, that was their karma. They must have injured someone in a car accident in the past, and now it's coming back to, even. And it's like, but that's like the only answer someone can come up with, because on one side, if someone says you control all of your experiences, then they have to come up with an explanation of why you would create such a horrible traumatic experience for yourself, which obviously anyone with any sanity would not do. So karma is their attempted explanation, as opposed to there's an entire 50% of this realm that is not being created and manufactured and managed by us at all, but is being managed by the system itself, by the AI demiurge and the archons itself, which, as we're seeing, has its own reasons for having the simulation in the first place. So then you can start to really dig in. Like, obviously, if there's certain things in my life that I've done, which is an action that I've done that has created a certain impact because of the action, and it's obvious. I can see, yeah, that was, I can see that was me. I did that, in a sense. But the situation itself, where I reacted to it, for example, doesn't necessarily have anything to do with me at all. That's the situation can be generated by the matrix in order to hopefully get certain responses from me to generate certain energetic principles and energetic scenarios that it wants. So again, what it becomes is when we begin to shift away from I am responsible for everything, and also away from I am responsible for nothing, in this sort of middle ground of I'm responsible for some things and not responsible for a lot of other things. The only thing we can do is deepen our awareness, is to work on going more deeply within, so that we are consciously aware of what's happening with outside of ourselves, inside of ourselves. What are our thoughts? What are our feelings? What are our emotions? And putting it all together in such a place where we are constantly able to create small gaps of space, small little gaps of space where we can use that moment in order to assess whatever situation is happening in our matrix reality and see what response in that moment is called for. That doesn't mean it's a standard response. It means, what is the response do you think is called for in the moment? I'm throwing that out just as a piece of information because it came to me this morning while I was sitting outside and having my morning tea, and I felt that's something valuable. And again, there's layers of depth to this. And I'm just sharing like the surface layer for those of you that are interested to sort of begin thinking, like I say, to begin thinking on this, to begin testing it out, to begin looking outward and within for situations and what's going on and how you're reacting to them, how you're not reacting to them, how do you feel you might have manifested a situation, how you feel you had nothing to do with manifesting the situation. And it's a way of really getting to understand, as you can pull this deeper and deeper and deeper backward to the point of the projection, which is kind of one of the whole points of this. We want to pull our complete awareness back to the projecting force, the original projecting force of what we're calling the soul here, that's actually manifesting the entire layers upon layers of matrix reality. So I'm just leaving that with you for contemplation. Otherwise, the book writing is coming along. I should have a few things ready in a couple of months. Next projects have been on the go. Of course, as you know, working on my garden and keeping it's a lot of work. We've expanded the garden this year, so there's a lot more work that has to be done on a day-to-day basis to make the plants happy. Beyond that, please drop by the locals channel as well. We're posting lots of things there on a weekly basis, and lots of really good discussions are starting to happen. I mean, the community is beginning to grow, and so we're beginning to get to the point where a new and deeper level of sharing is starting to happen, and I think that's something we all need. We need the ability to not just be in our own bubble, to not just try to figure things out ourselves, but try to have the interaction with other people, direct interaction with other people, that we can share ideas and bounce ideas off them. And I think that's important, to find like-minded people that you can have discussions with and share the ideas and share your experiences and get an opinion from somebody else on where you are, how you're doing, what you might want to look into, what might be another practice, what might be another thing to do on top of it. And I think that's an important part of moving forward in this. While it's a journey we walk alone, it's helpful for a while to have like-minded friends on the path that join us on our walk. So thanks everyone for giving this a listen, and we'll see you soon. I've got another video planned on a little one on history and a couple of photographs I want to talk about. So I'll bring that out in a couple of weeks before the end of the month. Take care, everyone. Cheers.